This is Democracy and the Rule of Law on Galaxy Television, and I remain your host, Solomon Offem. And I still have barristers Kingsley Chime and Shakuru Omalaja, and of course our guest virtually, Barrister Elvis Asia, talking to us from Ilukweju. Now let's quickly go straight to the second topic for discussion, where the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has rejected a planned petrol price in the country and the federal government's proposal to pay the sum of 5,000 naira monthly to Nigerians as palliative. The NLC President Ayuba Waba, in a statement on Wednesday, described the plan by the federal government as a penny-wise, pound-foolish gamble. According to him, the Group Managing Director, NNPC, Melukiari, announced on Wednesday about the petrol will cost as much as 340 naira from February 2022. The federal government is planning to disburse 5,000 naira, as I've said earlier, monthly to 40 million poor citizens to assist them cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal, which the government said will take effect in the middle of next year. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, said that the 5,000 naira monthly stipend was designed to cushion the negative impact of the removal of the subsidy on the most vulnerable 40% of the population ahead of the target date of May 2022 for the complete elimination of fuel subsidy. Now, let me start with you, Barrister Elvis Asa. You're the expert on this field. So I'm sure you must have done some of your calculation of trying to make sense of this. Let's hear your view on that.
Come to terms with is the fact that subsidy has to go at some point. The question is really what, when, because with the way the economy of Nigeria is at the moment, the country is likely not going to, survive unless some of these difficult decisions are taken. So we have to get it straight that the issue of subsidy has to go. And if you look at the Petroleum Industry Act that was recently passed, there's no room for subsidy under the act. So that is clear. But the question then is, how do we forget subsidy in a sustainable, realistic, and pragmatic manner? Because really, that's really what the issue is. We've had the government that does not seems to have the ability to come up with sustainable, realistic, and pragmatic approach to solving problems. Because the question before you can.
I'm sure he will join us when we now. Let's have your say on that. I mean, what do you think? Because it's mind-boggling, actually.
I don't know how best to say this and not break it down weeping. But let me perhaps say it from the biblical point of view. Not necessarily because I'm a Christian, because I'm not a Christian. But I think there's somewhere in the Bible where it says, the people rejoice when the righteous rules. And people groan, people suffer, people are in great pains when the righteous is in power or are in power. When you come up with this very funny proposal, suggestion, an extremely suspicious suggestion that you are going to pay 40 million Nigerians by way of directly crediting their accounts with 5,000 naira every month for the next 6 months to subsidize the proposed or the anticipated increment in fuel price. My simple logic is this: rather than budget this money for these not totally identifiable, nebulous Nigerians, who possibly, people who will be in that class may not even be persons who maintain a bank account. If they maintain a bank account, they may not even be persons who can receive alerts. They may not even have phones or whatever. What is this logic that this government, these funny leaders, what is their thinking? Why don't you use that same money to cushion the effect of the proposed fuel increment? Why does 40 million Nigerians The Nigerians that we are over 200 million, the last time I checked, the minimum wage is still how much? Is it 20,000 or 30,000 naira? How much can anybody do with that? Look at how astronomically everything has gone up.
The prices of goods and services.
The most painful now, you know, we have to cook to eat. They encourage all of us to start using gas cookers, to use gas. Today, a kilogram of gas is about 1,000 naira, not less than 800 naira. Nigerians are groaning, but it appears the more we groan, the more they punish us. Like again, somewhere it is said in the Bible that what we witnessed before we were deceived with their call of change, when those ones were maybe dealing with us with kid gloves, that somewhere the Bible says somebody was dealing with you with gloves hands. Now I will give you scorpions, vipers, snakes to deal with you. We have moved from fry pan to fire. I am saying to this government, never mind what your ministers, your politicians are saying to you. Nigerians are not happy. Nigerians are very angry. I think I said it here sometimes back, that a hungry man is an angry man. Food is not affordable. Transportation is out of this world. Use that money you are proposing. Remember, when coronavirus broke, and they came up with this fraudulent claim that they were feeding school children while schools were locked up. Then people asked, these children you were feeding, how did you identify them? Where did you feed them? Such that this body led by Professor Bolaji Owasoye, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, had to take some persons to court. That so-called school feeding was a monumental fraud against the country. Another monumental fraud is being planned in this way of paying some persons, some nebulous, unidentifiable 40 million Nigerians will get directly 5,000 naira every month. No, that is another huge fraud that is coming. Use that money to stop or to continue to subsidize what Nigerians are paying now. Nigerians are suffering.
Okay, it appears Barrister Elvis Asia is back. Let's continue from where we were while we were talking.
A subsidy should go. I think it has to go at some point. But the challenge is government does not seem to have a proper blueprint on how to solve the ripple effect of the program. Because whether you like it or not, just like my other friends have said, at the studio, the current economic realities facing Nigerians are dire. They are very difficult. Things are moving, astronomically. And removal of subsidy at this time is only going to triple, triple the inflation that we have in the country at the moment. And so, for you to implement such a policy, you have to, come up with a well thought out plan that would cushion the effect in a very realistic, pragmatic, and sustainable manner. Paying 5,000 naira to 40 million Nigerians is really an insult to Nigerians. When I saw that statement from the minister, I had to go and read her profile to see whether she understands what economics really means. Even though I'm not an economist, such a proposal is really I don't even have the words to describe it. For me, if we really want to leave subsidy, what we need to do first, we have to ensure that the refineries are working. We have to ensure that the private ones that are coming up, Dangote and about two or so others that are coming up are working, so that there will be competition in the process. And then we have to now identify, critical infrastructure that would really benefit every Nigerian. Some people have done the mathematics, and I tried to do it this morning, and they were right. If you pay 40 million Nigerians monthly 5,000, you are going to be spending about 200 billion every month. And in a year, you would have spent about 2.4 trillion, which is far more than the amount that is currently being spent on subsidy, which is reported to be about 1.8 trillion. So the figures doesn't even add up. Now, what we need to do is to put that money into, for example, let's say we can say in the next 5 years we're going to solve the problem of electricity in this country. Because if you solve the problem of electricity, for example, what that simply means is that all of the challenges that people are facing with their businesses, with movement, that will be fixed. You need to put in that money into that kind of infrastructure. Then you can say, oh, you want to put in, you want to identify how many teaching hospitals across the country that serves the poor that you want to fix, and then you have come up with measurable action plans that Nigerians can see. This is not something you wake up and you say you want to pay me 5,000. For God's sake, 5,000 naira today cannot feed you. Let's be realistic. 5,000 naira today, that would be a waste of money. Anybody who recommends that deserves to go to jail. Because it just shows that you're looking for an opportunity to steal. Just like my nephew was saying, the money that they said they were using to feed school children, what has happened to it? So we don't want all these kind of strange economic policies. You need to come up, let Nigerians see measurable infrastructure you want to fix. Then put timelines to it. So how much are we saving every month for subsidy? Let's say we are saving so much every month. In 6 months, we should be able to achieve so much. In 6 months, you need to talk to Nigerians to get a buy-in, because really the country right now is uncomfortable. Look at the way people are moving out of this country. People are leaving Nigeria as if Nigeria is a disease, has become a disease, and you want to worsen the situation by removing subsidy without implementing proper social mechanism, proper economic approach that will really affect the ordinary man on the street. Paying 5,000 naira is a slap on the face. It's an attempt to steal again and should be rejected by Nigerians. The government must come up with something more tangible, something measurable, something realistic, something pragmatic. They must tell us when the refineries will start working, because when we do that, we'll save foreign exchange, we'll crash the current realistic foreign exchange that we have right now, and all of that. That's one of the things I want to see. Not somebody's talking about 5,000 naira payment to 40 million Nigerians.
So, apart from the fact that several persons and organizations, where Nigerians have come out to say the 5,000 naira monthly stipends, it's quite ridiculous. But the biggest talking point is, what criteria would they use to pick to pick these 40 million Nigerians?
That is the big question. And when I did the calculation, just like the virtual guest said, it turns out that the attempt to remove subsidy and commence human subsidy is like robbing Peter to pay Paul. From available records, Nigeria spends an average of 102.5 billion every month to subsidize petroleum products. Now, you are proposing to pay 40 million Nigerians 5,000. Assuming those 40 million people are traceable, it will cost, just like he said, about 200 billion naira every month. So what does that tell you? It is not that subsidy removal is not a good thing. But in fact, from successive governments, from 1970, when subsidy regime started, at the time, Nigeria was subsidizing petroleum products almost at 75%. And other successive governments had tinkered with the prices of petroleum products up until today, except late President Yar'Adua, may God rest his soul, who actually reduced it. But every other government had tinkered with petroleum pricing regime. That tells you the importance of petroleum in Nigeria and how it controls the entire economy. But the idea of robbing Peter to pay Paul, to remove subsidy and introduce something that is even bigger than subsidy, it is absurd. Particularly where we don't have infrastructure. Because if we have infrastructure, the issue of subsidy would have been a bygone. We don't have public transportation system, we don't have electricity, we don't have hospitals, we don't have jobs. Nigerians are unemployed. Chunk of Nigerian youths are unemployed. So what the subsidy is doing is to cushion the effects. Of course, the prices of foods in the market as at today has gone up. Now, removing subsidy in 2022 and introducing what they called 40 million Nigerians. We all know that this 40 million was like a small screen, you know, to remove the subsidy, and then Nigeria will face the reality. But the person who introduced this 5,000 to 40 million Nigeria didn't do the calculation properly. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come to the public to announce that we want to save costs, because the essence of removing removing a subsidy is to generate more revenue to the government. Now, when you now remove subsidy, you put in more revenue to sustain the effect of the removal. It does not make sense. So, by and large, if we are serious-minded people and we want to do away with subsidy regime in Nigeria, one is that at this time, the time is not right. Secondly, we must begin to, build infrastructure, develop our educational system, which is also another aspect that must be looked into. Then the health care, the electricity, and so on and so forth. When we have this, then you can talk about removing subsidy. Because as we have it in Nigeria, almost everybody, you do everything yourself. It appears that there's no government. You have to buy fuel for your generator. You have to, fuel your own car. There's no public transportation system. There's no health care system. There's nothing. So when you remove the little effect, little subsidy that tends to cushion the effect on citizens, citizens will be the ones to suffer it most.
So he talked about timing. What time will you think would have been the best time? Because this is not the first time government have tried to remove subsidy, but the timing has always been wrong. What time will exactly, especially now, let's also take it into consideration. In the real sense, removing subsidy would have been the best thing, but the timing seems to be going off.
I beg to disagree. All this long tourism about subsidy, let us just understand one clear fact. We are being deceived by that word subsidy. How many times have Nigerians been told that a particular subsidy was the last subsidy they were removing? Each time they're removing subsidy, they'll say, this is the last subsidy. After this, there's no more subsidy. Only a few months after, they will come and tell us that it is being subsidized. Like our special friend said, why can't we have working and productive refineries here? When the Niger Delta boys are refining the crude way, you drop them criminals. You go after them, you kill them, you spill their oil. They are criminals. But you can steal in barges, large ships, the crude oil outside, to go and refine outside and bring to this country. Nigerians are being deceived. And honestly, when it comes to this issue of availability of petroleum products to Nigerians, all our leaders, including Olusegun Obasanjo and the present one, they should be in jail.
Okay, let's ask our virtual guest one more question, being the petroleum expert here. Now, quickly, as we round up, is it possible to manage subsidy removal without refineries? And quickly, what role does PIB play here? Because when we made a lot of big deal about the petroleum industry bill, what role does PIB play or doesn't play in this decision? Quickly, in 1 minute, as we round up.
Well, for the PIB, it's very clear that under the PIB, there's no room, no place for subsidy. Market reflective prices are contemplated under the PIB. You could apply for licenses to do refining and all that, and you determine your prices. That's what the PIB actually says. The PIB also abolishes the Petroleum Equalization Fund, which was meant to ensure that you have uniform prices for petrol all across the country. So, as it stands now, that the PIB subsidy is gone, and so legally speaking, now there's no legal basis for subsidy, in Nigeria. With respect to removing subsidy without refineries, I think it's important for us to focus on the refineries. By now, we should have done this. If we really want to remove subsidy, it's important for us to fix the refineries. That will cushion the effect. Because when you are refining locally, you're going to create jobs. There will be a multiplier effect, which will cushion the effect of the high prices that will eventually come with subsidy removal. It's important. That is very fundamental.
to us virtually from Ilupeju. Thank you so much for your time. And gentlemen, thank you. I mean, we would have loved to talk more about this, but I mean, time flies when you're enjoying yourself. I'm sure we're having fun discussing this thing, even though it's fun and not fun at the same time. You know what I mean? Especially with what's going on in this country. Barristers Shakiru Omolaja and Kingsley Chime, thank you so much for your time and your insight. And of course, as often, you're always available for us to talk, and thank you so much. And thank you for staying tuned to Galaxy Television, keeping a date with us. Next week, Sunday, is another day where we will talk on things that are always happening in this country. And of course, we'll be here to talk and analyze that. We'll keep talking and talking until hopefully Nigeria becomes great again. Thank you so much. Next week, Sunday, on Galaxy Television, time 1 to 2. I'm Solomon Offem. Have a beautiful Sunday afternoon.